You know, we have a large number of folks not here today. We pray for their safe journeys, and we miss them a lot. Before we allow me to speak about fathers, I wanted one fellow to come up here and talk about just a couple of moments. I've asked, which happens to be our Father of the Year, John Ahlers, to come up here. You know, it's interesting. I've known John. How long, John? We saw some pictures of you the other day, and just a little young whippersnapper. You should flat foot this up there then. But I got to know John very, very well. I was kind of like his second dad here in Savannah. Other dad was in Colorado. John was at our house all the time. He lived with us for a while. He ate with us all the time and washed his clothes there. John moved away, and it just broke my heart. And of course, God allowed him to come back. And I remember Tammy. We've known her since she was 13, and she had a big bust up with a young man in the church. And I said to myself, I can see John and Tammy together, just like I saw Joey and Melissa together. Remember Joey? I said, "You better go ask her out for coffee." I saw it, but I saw it. But I saw you two together. I could see it in my mind, you two together. But on and off, John was deployed and here and there. And it's you know, I hate that John's military career was cut a little short. But I'm very excited. They resettled in Savannah. I think they wanted to go to South Carolina. And the Lord said no. Okay. But it's nice to see John actually maturing in the Lord. I'm very proud of him. He's one of those that he calls me and he says, "I'm going to speak." He's only working on a sermon. We're going to be out of town in a couple weeks, going to Sarasota, and John and Tammy's family are going to go, and he wants to do the communion meditation. He said, "Are any men going to speak on Father's Day? Because I want to volunteer." He's ready to take that role in leadership. He's taking it to heart. So we're going to give him just a couple of moments to talk about fathers, fatherhood. And he said, "How much time do you want me to have? 1.5 minutes, 20 minutes? I said 5 would be good. But John, congratulations, brother. I love you a bunch, and thank you for coming up here.
Hey, Andrew, when we were talking earlier about during your little speech, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? You've got a superior example of fatherhoods here between Ron and Gene.
And you.
Thank you. I just want to say I was blessed that I got to know your dad, you, Uncle Bob, and Johnny, and then so where my dad started, and then I moved away. I got down here. You know, I had the choice of doing the young GI thing and going a different route, but I was blessed to meet Ron and Heather, and then get welcomed in, and then hanging out with y'all just totally changed because your brother military. He used to race boats, little Scully and Annapolis. And I used to pick on him a lot because I was like, I ain't racing boats. And we used to go at it about, you know, him being Navy, me being Air Force, or an Army, and Air Force, and then back in the Army. And he would joke about, you can't make your mind up. And then I was like, well, you know, it seems like when you're on one side of the fence, the grass is greener on the other side. And it's like, but I think my heart was always Army. And we had, even with your dad, for World War II, it's like, even Betty's dad, we used to talk a lot about, we had a lot in common with the military side. And it showed me that you can still be in the military, travel a lot, and yet have a place where you're going to set up roots. Because you used to always pick on me and tell me, you got to set up roots, you got to have roots. And I was like, I can't see that. I like to travel. And then after all these years, now I realize what you were talking about. And it's like, yeah, you got to have roots. You got to have a place to come back to, and family and friends that, you know, because I see that I started coaching a lot this year and last year. And it's like you see these boys that 9 out of 10 don't have a dad or mom in the same household. A lot of them are grandparents raising them. And they do the drop-off service. You come up to the ball field, drop them off, take off. And so a lot of these kids, I've noticed, they don't have no structure or upbringing. And retiring this year from coaching, and then I went to an awards banquet for Abigail at her school, and wasn't even thinking about football. And all of a sudden, all the boys started running up to me like, "Hey, coach, you going to coach this season?" And I was just like, before I could say I think about it, more boys kept coming up. "You going to coach, right?" And I was like, I started thinking, I was like, they don't have nobody to look up to, give them kind of structure. And I noticed a lot of them are kind of lost in school with understanding academics as well as playing. And I was like, well, maybe that's my next calling. It's like, you know, I was in the military, and I became an instructor, and it was kind of the same thing. You got these young privates coming in, the basic from all over the world, different families, you know, ex-gang members to, you know, kids from really well-to-do homes. And it's like they get together, and, you know, of course they look at you, you're stupid, you don't know anything, and they're smart. Well, you got to break them down, make them dumb, and then build them back up as a team. And I started thinking about it, I was like, well, I did that a lot. So I was like, I might have an influence on these kids playing football and baseball. So I was like, I told them, I was like, count me in. So another 2 months, I'll be back at it again, coaching football. And it's like, you know, when I'm tired and sore and not thinking I want to go to practice, I think the Lord's given me an opportunity to help some of these young kids out. Because if you don't catch them early, I've seen what they look like and how they act when they're 18, 19 coming in the military. And it's just like, I hope I can catch them early enough so that it has a better influence on them. And with my background, I wrote a little poem. I called it a mission statement. Sounds a little bit better. And it's kind of like my background. So I put, I'm a biological father. I've been an absent father. I'm a biological father. I've been an absent father. I'm a biological father again. I've been a second father. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've been a second father. I am a father. And that's the one thing I want to, instill is like, you can be a dad or you can be a father. And I was trying to figure out what's the best way to understand both. And so when I did some research and looked it up, I found that under the noun for father, it means dad, a male parent, not a mom and a mom, and some of these other families, but it's a male parent. The adjective is paternal. And then I was like, paternal, it sounds like a big name. I'm going to look that up. So I looked that up. And it's the care of a father. It's a fatherly kindness. Then I looked up the verb. One who sires a child, which is one who determines the gender. The father is the one that comes up with the X or Y chromosome. So I was like, okay, that's the technical part of it. Then I was like, let's look more. So I started looking into the tradition of the father or a dad. And I found that traditionally, the way they act should be protective, supportive, and responsible. And I was like, do I do that? I was like, okay, got that. Then it says, they offer specific provisions to develop in the development of their sons and daughters throughout the life cycle. An active father figure plays a major role in reducing the behavior and the psychological problems in the young men and women as they grow and old. And I see that when I started coaching. I see the ones that don't have that father figure, and I had a young kid that cussed me out on the practice field. Of course, he spent the next hour running laps, but it made me understand. It's like, wow, I would have never done that when I was a kid. So I was like, I couldn't understand why he did it. But then I found out he didn't have a father. An increase in the father and child involvement helps to increase the child's social stability, educational achievement, and their potential to have a solid marriage when they're an adult. And I started thinking about our education system and how we're like ranked 15th or something like that in the world. And I'm like, well, it seems like we have a whole lot less fathers' involvement with the kids. And right there it says education, so it's like, that's one avenue that you can see where our education's dropped off because they don't have no father involvement. And then I was like, all right, let me look up some categories, because there's all kinds of fathers out there. All right, you got your natural, biological father. It's the most common. Then you got a birth father, which is your biological father that cannot, or does not take care of that child. You have a surprise father. I was like, surprise father. One who finds that years later they have a child. They get that knock. Daddy. So you gotta be careful. Posthumous father. This is where a father died before the child was born. Teenage father. Associated with the teenage sexual intercourse between the youth. And I thought about that one. And it's like, it seems like now you hear, like my wife will tell us about the schools and how they've gone from, spitballs and messing around in class to now having chased out of locker rooms and the gym class having to be locked at one of the schools in the local area that you wouldn't think, because it's a Christian school, that they would have that kind of problems, but found out that they had to close their gym because during school hours they had their youth in there having sex, and I was like, wow, would have never thought of that. Non-parental father. This is one who provides financial support but has no tie to the child. Then you got sperm donor. This could be a natural or biological father that does not have any legal or financial responsibility. Then you got the baby daddy. You should hear that a lot. It's slang for about any one of the categories above could be baby daddy. And I was just like trying to understand, it's like, you got all these different fathers, and it's like, well, it comes down to the relationship. Because you could have like the one where it's the father that's not biological, but steps into that role and says, I'm going to take care of this young man. And so I broke that down. And this is the non-biological relationship between a father and a child. A stepfather, which is a wife or a husband's child from a previous relationship. Father-in-law, it's the father of the one spouse. Adopted father, it's the father who adopts a child. Foster father, it's the father who raises a child who is not a biological or an adopted father. Then you got social father, where a man takes responsibility for that child. And I think that's where my next role's been with coaching is, let me try to be that social father for some of these young men that don't have one. And that's what I really want to take it serious and help them guys out. The last thing is, it's a story. One of the ones that popped in my head when I was an instructor at Fort Knox. You get so many, each cycle is 180 privates, so there's so many of them. You kind of like watch through and they're just numbers. But there's one that came through, could not write his name. Not even his name. And I'm thinking, how do you get, it's like, where you're 18, join the military, you can't even write, let alone your name. So what I did is I said, all right, every time you see me, you're going to write your name. And, of course, he sees me a lot. I'm the instructor. And it's like, by the time he graduated, I showed him my log out for the weapon, every time he came to get a weapon. And I showed him where there was basically an X chicken scratch. So when he graduated, he was able to write his name. And I felt good about that. I was like, I could have easily just washed him out, like I guess so many teachers have done in the past, and just passed him through. Or I said, you know what, let me help him at least somehow, where he can write his name, because if you can't write your own name, it's like, I just can't imagine. And when I met him, my main goal was to at least get him to where he can sign his name. And I did that. I can't remember his name, but I can see his face. I remember. So that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Yeah, fatherhood is more than just having